Hi everyone, and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I have a delicious Eastern European cake recipe for you guys, and I'm going to show you how to make a walnut prune honey cake. It's also known as tort чернослив in Ukraine and in Russia, and it is incredibly delicious. We're going to get things started with some easy honey cake layers. Fill the inside with a creamy whipped cream frosting, and then add diced walnuts and diced prunes on the inside, and then add more whipped cream frosting on the outside. Even if you don't like prunes, you are going to love this incredible moist and delicious cake. My aunt always makes this cake for special occasions or family reunions, and it's always the first cake to be gone. Everybody just loves this recipe. Let's get started. I'm going to show you how to make this incredible dessert. First things first, I have my oven preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and I've lined two 8-inch cake pans with some parchment paper, and I'm also going to spray down the sides with the baking spray. I'm going to set these aside for now, and we're going to get started on our honey cake batter. I'm going to get things started with all the wet ingredients first. Into a large mixing bowl, I'm going to add in 1 cup of sour cream. You can also use Greek yogurt for this recipe, and this is what's going to make the cake layers extra moist and delicious. Next, we have 3/4 cups of cooking oil, and today I'm using canola oil, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and we'll need 4 large eggs for today's recipe. I like to break them into a measuring cup instead of into the cake batter, just in case I get a bad egg. I don't have to start all over from scratch. Add in the eggs, along with 1 cup of pure honey. This is what's going to sweeten the cake, and it's going to add so much incredible flavor. I'm going to grab my hand mixer. You can always use a stand mixer as well, and just give this a mix for about 2 to 3 minutes until the eggs are well beaten and you have a smooth mixture. Now on to the dry ingredients. I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour. To that I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Mix that all together. And I'll use a fine mesh strainer like this one to sift the flour into the liquid ingredients. And you always want to do this just so you don't end up with any random clumps of flour or baking powder in your cake batter. And then I'll use my hand mixer to mix the flour into the batter just until it's well incorporated. You don't want to over mix the flour at this stage, otherwise the cake can get kind of gummy and heavy. I have my prepared cake pans, and I'm going to divide this cake batter evenly between the 2 pans. You can always use a kitchen scale just to make sure the cake layers have the same amount of cake batter. And these honey cake layers are ready to go into the oven. They're going to bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 32 to 34 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean. Once they're done baking, I'm going to let them cool in the pans for about 5 to 7 minutes, and then onto a wire rack to cool completely. While these cake layers are cooling, it's the perfect time to make my whipped cream frosting. Now, if you do make this frosting ahead of time, make sure to keep it refrigerated so it doesn't start to melt. For my frosting, I'm going to start with 12 ounces of cream cheese. I've softened this at room temperature for about 30 minutes. I'm going to grab my mixer and give this a mix for a couple minutes until the cheese is really nice and smooth. Into my beaten cream cheese, I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of sour cream. And I recommend using a full fat sour cream for this recipe. Add in a teaspoon of vanilla extract and give this another mix. I'm setting aside the cream cheese and sour cream mixture for now, and we're going to switch over to my stand mixer. I have 3 cups of chilled heavy cream. You want to make sure that the heavy cream is super cold so that it whisks up nicely. I'm going to pour that in. And then to the heavy cream, I'm going to add in my confectioner's sugar. I'm going to add about 1 cup. You can add up to 1.5 cups if you want your frosting to be a little bit on the sweeter side. And I'm just going to start the mixer out on a slow speed and then work it up to a high speed, whisking for about 4 to 5 minutes until I get stiff peaks. And once my whipped cream reaches stiff peak stage, I'm going to transfer this cream cheese and sour cream mixture into the mixing bowl. And this is going to help stabilize the whipped cream, and it's also going to make it really nice and tangy. And then I'll give this a mix for about 30 seconds, just until the two mixtures are combined. You don't want to over mix at this step, otherwise the frosting can separate. And check out this frosting. It's so fluffy and creamy. This is going to be perfect for frosting the cake. I also really like that it holds its shape well. I'm going to tuck this into the refrigerator until I'm ready to use it. My honey cake layers have cooled completely, and now I can assemble my cake. So I place my frosting into the refrigerator. I don't want it to melt while I'm getting everything else ready. I chopped up 1 cup of walnuts. I also diced a cup of dried prunes. If you don't particularly like prunes, and I think you will still like them in here, they give this cake a little bit of tartness. You can use dried dates for this recipe. I'm gonna set these aside for now. We'll use those for the fillings. Meanwhile, let's get our cakes leveled and split. So I'm going to grab a long serrated knife and gently level off the top of the cake first. I want these cake layers to be nice and level. And then I'll use a knife to split the cake layers in half. We'll have 4 cake layers total. Next, I'm going to add a generous amount of my whipped cream frosting onto the layer, and then I'll use a spatula to spread that evenly to the edges. And I'll sprinkle on 1/3 of the chopped walnuts onto the cake layer. These are going to be so crunchy with every single bite. And we'll do the same with the diced prunes. These like to stick together, so sometimes you just gotta pull them apart a little bit. And I'll add my next cake layer, and we'll repeat the process for the next few layers. And now that I've assembled the cake, I'm ready to apply the crumb coat of frosting. So this coat is just going to help seal in all the crumbs. I'm gonna smooth the frosting on the outside, and then I'll place the cake into the refrigerator, let it chill in there for a good 30 minutes, and then we'll come back to apply our final layer of frosting. And while we're waiting the cake to chill in the refrigerator, I'm also going to place the frosting into the fridge, because this one likes to melt really quickly. So keep it nicely chilled. And after applying my final layer of frosting, I'm going to go around the edges and very lightly tap in some chopped walnuts just to garnish the outside a bit. I also melted some semi-sweet chocolate chips in the microwave, and then I transferred them into a disposable pastry bag. You can also just use like a Ziploc bag. I'm gonna drizzle some chocolate over the top. And I've transferred the rest of my frosting into a pastry bag. Today I'm using a Teco tip number 847. I'm going to add dollops of cream on the top. At any point during this process, if your frosting gets too soft, kind of loses its shape, place it back into the refrigerator for like 15 to 20 minutes and then whisk it again. All right, time to cut into this stunning cake to see what it looks like on the inside. Gonna grab a sharp knife. Now when you're making this cake at home, I recommend letting it chill in the refrigerator overnight to allow those cake layers to become even more moist, absorb all that flavor from the prunes and the walnuts. Oh my goodness, check out this incredible cake. Doesn't that look amazing? I am loving the bits of the dried prunes on the inside with the walnuts, and those honey cake layers look incredible. And that's it for my honey walnut prune cake. Doesn't this look stunning? I loved decorating this cake. I wanted to try a couple new things for my cake today. Turned out amazing. I can't wait to dig in and enjoy. I mean, those cake layers look so delicious. For the full recipe link, head on down the video description box. I have a link there that'll take you over to my website where you can find US customary and metric measurements in the recipe card. Now, time to dig in and enjoy. This cake is one of my favorites. It's one of those childhood favorites that you always come back to, and it's really delicious with a cup of tea after dinner. Just wow, the flavors here are amazing. I am loving the crunchy bits of the walnuts, and then you have the sweet and tart prunes and those honey cake layers. They are so moist and delicate. They just melt into your mouth. And the perfect complement to all of this is that whipped cream frosting, adding a little bit of that sour cream in there. It's a super traditional, like Ukrainian or Russian frosting recipe. You guys are going to like how it all comes together. Time for another bite. This looks so good. I haven't made this cake in such a long time. It tastes so good. If you've never tried a cake like this before, you are in for a real treat. And if you grew up eating this cake like I did, this will bring back all those delicious childhood memories. I can't wait to enjoy the rest of this slice after dinner today with a cup of tea. It's just going to be the perfect moment. So much flavor, so incredibly delicious. Definitely give this a try next time you have a special occasion. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this cake at home as much as I do, and I'll see you next time with a new recipe.